Basic database creation and table design remains mostly familiar. There isn't a lot of new stuff, at least that we see on the surface. If we look a little closer, we'll see some enhancements. Let's take a closer look at the ribbon in our table data sheet and our table design views. I'm in the data sheet view, and I'll look at the second contextual tab. We've seen the one for fields, so now I'll click on table. There are some very intriguing entries here. Starting from the left, I see table properties, which isn't new, although they are now more exposed and easier to access than ever before. What are intriguing, though, are the options that are almost in the middle. As I look at the actual group names, we have before events, after events, named macros, and on the far right-hand side, we have relationships. It's these things in the middle that we'll focus on because Access for Office has introduced something called data macros. Actually, the entire macro environment has changed, and now it functions more like SQL triggers. Now don't panic. I know whenever we talk about SQL or even SQL, people think it's too technical and that they can't use Access. What all of this means is that we can more easily attach macros, which help us automate our databases. And we can attach them to a variety of objects, including tables, and we don't have to know a lot about the programming behind them to be able to do so. Let's see just how simple it is to create a macro. I'll move into the design view because I want to show you that we have the access to do this in both places. I'll move over, and from my tab, I'll right-click. Then I'll go into Design View, because I want to show you that again on the right-hand side there is a Table Tools Design tab, and here again on the right-hand side we have a group. Here it's called Field, Record, and Table Events, and that's important because that's exactly what we can work with. Things that are triggered when we update or do something to a field, a record as a whole, or to the table as a whole. So let's see how to do that. I'll click Create Data Macros, and it gives me a variety of events to choose from. I want to automate this, and after I insert a new record, remember this is going to be my students table, I want somebody to be automatically notified about that insertion. So I'll click After Insert. Wait for our screen to flash around for just a second. Now I have a new tab. It's the After Insert action, and I'll build what I want to happen. I'll start by clicking on the drop-down, and there are several things I can do. I can make comments. I can group actions. I can use if statements. I'll do something that's familiar to everyone. I'll say that when this happens, I want to send an email. Not unexpectedly, there are then some different options to fill out. Not only can I address this to somebody, but I have the flexibility to add a CC and even a BCC, as well as fill out the subject and the body of the email message itself. So I'll take a few seconds to type some of these things in. I'll address this to Michael, who is in charge of keeping track of our new students and sending them a welcome packet. Like everything else, I can press my Tab key to move from field to field. I'm not sending a CC to anybody or a BCC, so I'll move through those. The next thing I want to do is enter my subject. I'll call it New Student Record. One more tab, and now I can fill out the body of my message. Guess what? I just created an events-driven database, or at least I've made some events that will drive things to happen within the students table. This is fabulous. Now the extent of what I can do here to automate stuff is absolutely vast. This is just a simple example to demonstrate the option and to introduce the concept, especially for anyone who is not a programmer by career or by nature. These macros can then be launched conditionally based on actions taken within the database, in this case like inserting a new record. This will not only improve the performance of the database, it will also improve the user experience by allowing tasks to be automated. In this case, nobody has to email Michael as a separate step when somebody is added to the database. It's all simply going to be handled as soon as a new record is created. At this point, I'll close this by right-clicking the tab. It asks if I want to save it, and yes, I do want to save it. And that brings me back to my table. Now when I'm ready to insert a new record from the datasheet view or from things that are based off of this table, all of that automation will be in place. Just to keep my workspace cleaned up, I'll close the table and save the changes. And now I'm back to just the empty window, ready to start on something else. But before I do that, I'll remind you that macros have been an important part of creating event-driven access databases since its inception. Without them, users would need to manually navigate to and execute various activities as they work. This is not only tedious, but it also requires that users understand the relational database model and are comfortable working with the various aspects of access. This is not safe, nor is it a good assumption. Macros, on the other hand, allow the designer, that would be probably you or me, to define these steps and automate them through simple user actions like opening or closing something, adding, deleting, or updating a record, etc. In Access 2010, the macro feature has been enhanced to provide easier design access and construction of these important action-driven events. And that will make our databases much more polished, professional, and elegant.